So Hayden McKee, Business Development Manager at Revera. So I've got a few slides, a few salesy slides just to talk about where we're at from an infrastructure as a service perspective, how far it's come. Just to clarify, I guess my 16 years has been in sales, 6 years of that has been at Revera. When I started at Revera, I guess the cloud was in its infancy. We used to front up to a client and explain to them what the cloud was, what infrastructure as a service was, and then attempt to sell it to them. So there was very much an education process that you would go through with your clients. And I guess with the adoption of cloud, it's a lot easier to sell to it, but it's at what layer are you buying the cloud? And I think it's got its challenges in terms of still articulating how to consume these services. So where have we come from? So 2.5 years we've been running infrastructure as a service, and we've signed up 30 agencies thus far. Probably on average we're signing up one every couple of months, with a number of discussions happening as we speak with multiple agencies. 73 racks of collocation, so that's physical kit, and that is growing. So we keep on building more and more data centres across the country. So some of these numbers might be a bit of a surprise to you. So we're up to 16 terabytes of RAM that we're allocating to those agencies. It's a lot of servers. So in those 2.5 years, obviously we're delivering efficiency-based discounts to our clients, to our agencies, as well as volume-based discounts. As the volume goes up, the price comes down, which unfortunately our CFO doesn't like, but that's the contract that we've signed up for. So since in those 2.5 years, we've had 3 price reductions, and that's equating to 10% discount on your cost of RAM today. 1.9 petabytes of disk we've provisioned. And we've had 2 price reductions on our disk. So there was initial 10%, and we've just hit a further 15% discount. So we've actually built some tools around this because agencies have to write a business case in terms of how they're going to consume these services. And we can show a TCO that if the scenario would be that your storage isn't going to increase, your compute isn't going to increase over time, we can show you based on some basic assumptions around volume and efficiency-based discounts that your cost of IT is actually going to reduce over the next 8 years, which agencies, CFOs certainly like. And often that gets fed into the business cases. So where to next? So we're just developing and we're just investing in some a substantial investment from a Revera perspective. And we're calling it the 2.0 All of Government portal. And this is going to take our agencies to that next level. And we're already running it internally within Revera, and the guys are building it as we speak today. So that is going to deliver phenomenal amounts of view into the infrastructure and giving the agencies the ability to burst to the public cloud. So we hope to be able to demo that to our core agencies within Revera and to the wider opportunities as well. So, and then we've got this fantastic platform that we're building, and then the common capability came along, which is a fantastic extension on the efforts that we've done thus far. So Common Web, so the Silver Stripe solution, off the top of my head, we've got 30 or 40 agencies that have migrated their website over to the Common Web platform that Silver Stripe's running, and that's all hosted on Revera's infrastructure as a service. Enterprise Content Management as a service, that's in its infancy, but it is getting there, and desktop as a service as well. So there's the proud list of agencies, and I guess our catalogue, as most of you all know, ranges everything from co-location right through to as a service. And every individual agency is purchasing a variety of services, whether it be your Ministry of Justice that said, I don't want to own an asset, and is dived in boots and all, versus other agencies that have gone a more traditional route in terms of the adoption of our services. So that's kind of the salesy stuff. What they wanted me to focus on is what do I see in terms of the learnings that we've had from migrating these 30 agencies in. I can't reiterate enough that leadership is key. The variety of engagements we have with agencies it's very evident if there is the appropriate amount of leadership coming out of the agency that will enable the agencies to purchase these services. CEO, CFO and CIO, there has to be alignment at that group in terms of the strategy. More often than not, we'll have a technical person turn up at the door and say, I've been told that I need to purchase your services and I'm going through an evaluation. So more often than not, we try to drag that conversation up into the upper echelons of the agencies so that the strategy is determined from the top of the organisation down, not from the bottom of the organisation going up. Because funny enough, that technical person standing there may or may not be incented to move to a cloud-type service. They may feel as though they're threatened personally by their role. Have a very clear sourcing strategy. What is going in your private cloud? What's going in government infrastructure as a service, and what's going into public? So determining where your data sits in terms of where it can sit and what type of cloud. One of the great things we're doing around this Portal 2.0 and that burst to cloud will enable agencies to be able to say, okay, I've got a secure environment in Revere, all of government certified to restricted environment, and I want to take some publicly known data and put it up in Amazon. So the agencies will have that ability to do that from a single pane of glass that Revere is going to deliver to the market. A clear resourcing strategy. So more often than not, the techie turns up and says, I've got the spreadsheet, here's my demand, can you give me a price please? Once again, the strategy hasn't come down from the CEs, from the CXO level in terms of understanding how this is going to change. Fundamentally, a move to a cloud does, or there is potentially some realignment of some roles within the agencies. So having that strategy determined well up front prior to engaging a partner like Revere is key. So once you move to infrastructure as a service, is it going to be an in-house? Is the IT team within the organisation going to deliver the service, or are you going to go to a managed service, an ITMS type construct? And there's a change in those key roles. What is that going to look like going forward? And we see some ministries, some agencies do that particularly well, and some do that relatively poorly. And that impacts on the speed at which the agency can adopt these types of services. And a very clear evaluation criteria. Once again, it's always top down. If you've got the techie at the bottom coming up with the evaluation criteria, potentially they may or may not evaluate it with an apples and apples approach. We see that often as well. So ensure that there's independence from IT. So IT needs to be involved without a doubt, but they're feeding information into the strategy and into the decision making, and make sure they understand cloud and the benefits of this as well. Just want to talk here in terms of obviously the separation of responsibilities. You're on-premise, who does what? Infrastructure as a service, the demarcation points coming up further. Obviously from an infrastructure perspective where our demarcation is the hypervisor. Platform as a service that's going up further again, and then software as a service, everyone's managing it. What I wanted, I've just stolen a slide here from won't disclose the agency, but it's a large council north of the Bombay Hills. And what they're going through is a phenomenal change within the organisation, and not a lot of people appreciate what they're doing, and the migration that they're obviously bringing their workload over to Revere. So on your left, you've got the historical in-house IT environment. So they're looking at their sourcing strategy very carefully. Okay, well, I need these types of people for a set period of time until I end up in Revere as infrastructure as a service. And then in the middle, this is what I need in the interim. And this is the process that I need to go through in terms of moving to the cloud. And then on the far right-hand side, these are the new types of roles that I need when I'm in the cloud. I always say to agencies, hey, my service is a dripping tap. You can turn it on full bore, but I'll never turn it off. I'll keep invoicing you for that infrastructure as long as you've got the tap running. The beauty about it is that the tap can be turned off, and it's the intelligent agencies that understand that and manipulate my invoice on a monthly basis that get the true value out of our service. So this is one agency that we're engaging with that is doing a very good job about the strategy comes down from the top. They understand what they're going to do at a resourcing level. They're articulating that very well to their staff, so the staff understand, well, this is what it's going to look like. I'm on the left-hand side, or the left-hand side here. I want to move to the right. What type of skills do I need to move up the value chain in my organisation and still work for this agency? So ensure advice is coming from the right place. I think there was a discussion here about why has the business gone out and purchased services in the cloud. What ultimately does the business want? Why has the business been doing that? Because IT's been saying, no, it's too hard, and so businesses just get out their credit card, they're off to Amazon, they'll swipe the credit card and they're buying virtual servers. So the business is doing that because IT has been holding them back from being able to deliver fast and efficiently, and that's ultimately what these services can deliver. That's why the cloud's there. See this as well, technical indulgence. People are still looking under the hood. What type of SAD are you running there, Hayden? How many IOPS can it deliver? So they're still dragging the conversation down into the weeds instead of just understanding, okay, what is the service? My service is an outcome. It's exchange. It's the platform. So that's where the conversation has to be. And there's a huge opportunity for consultants around town in Wellington, and the consultants are making a lot of money, and they're rolling in and saying, I can help you move to the cloud, and so they're writing all these strategies, but more often than not, the consultants aren't aligned with the business. They're coming from the old view of IT and trying to reinvent themselves and move themselves into a new service called Journey to the Cloud. Set up an appropriate governance structure. As I said, I'll turn the tap on and the tap will never be turned off unless you want me to. So all new requests, and we're seeing this in terms of some lessons learned, all new requests need to go through standard processes. Historically, the IT department said, I need a new server. So that goes through an internal process in terms of the DFA on the sign-off of that server. Typically, it'll take 6 to 8 weeks for the server to turn up if it actually does. In my world, I need to deliver you a new virtual server within 4 hours. So that server can be turned on very, very quickly, which is fantastic for the business, but you need to make sure that the DFA is in place and the process is in place. Now, the process doesn't need to change within the agency, but ultimately the result is instead of calling a hardware vendor, you're dialing onto our portal and just spinning up a virtual server. So it can happen a lot quicker, but your invoice can balloon very quickly. So you need the processes in place. Once again, we're seeing it done very well in some ministries. Other ministries, it's like the Wild West. Because it's easy for dollars to increase. The CFO likes that, but the ministry CFO doesn't particularly like that either. And that's when they come talk to me and say, well, what's your governance structure? Who is controlling the purchase of these servers? Collocation. So as I said on my first slide, I think we've got 80 racks of collocation. We're building another data centre out at Trenton because we've got more and more collocation. Someone was calling me the collocation king at one stage. Collocation will ultimately just increase your costs. Why? Because you've already got a computer room next door, you've already got your infrastructure sitting somewhere, and it's a sunk cost. You've bought the air conditioning, you've bought all the assets that's going to run your computer room. My data centre is at a higher tier than yours. I've got far more redundancy than what you've got today, and that comes at a higher cost. So you lift and shift your infrastructure into our data centre, your costs are going to go up. Now that's going to be an interesting business case, pushing that upstairs. Fundamentally, collocation will just increase your costs. And it's seen as moving the issue, not dealing with it. So more often than not, when an agency turns up and says, I want 10 racks of collocation, it's the techie guy that's turned up saying, I want to protect my job, that's why I want 10 racks of collocation. I'm going, where's the strategy coming from your CE? Where's the business? Because all you're going to do is move your problems into our data centre. Nothing's going to change. And fundamentally, the business is still going to be sitting there going, where's my efficient service from the cloud? Well, I've moved it to the cloud. It's out in Trentham. Well, it's not really the cloud. All you've done is just change the location of your physical servers. And it's not strategic. All you're doing is musical chairs. You're just starting to pay me to power and water and feed your boxes. It's not strategic at all. Transition. So we always have that discussion with the agencies. Okay, where are your maintenance renewals at? Where's your hardware? Where's your software? Where's your data centre environmentals? Those are the decision points in terms of how quickly you're going to adopt these types of services. Liquidate it. So, you know, certainly with our new owners, there's a reasonable sized checkbook floating around. So we have purchased assets off agencies and liquidated their assets and brought them in. So they've just the big bang approach straight into as a service. Or mixed is, have you got half of your infrastructure that still needs to be suited? So we'll co-locate that for 2 years until that comes up for renewal, and then we'll move it over to infrastructure as a service. And I guess this is our experience. Our technical guys, 30 agencies have moved in. Are you going to P2V it, V2V it, or lift and shift or over the wire? So what is your migration strategy? Our technical guys, they have literally dealt with everything. Sometimes we do have the old ministry tune up and say, hey, we're running business critical systems for New Zealand. You can't muck this up. And saying, well, you know, last week we just moved the 111 system into our data centre. So I think that's pretty business critical. So if you think your application's more critical than 111, then let's have that discussion. So we have a phenomenal amount of experience in terms of transitioning them, and it is a lessons learned in terms of giving the agency confidence that these services can be done. So I'm wrapping up. This is my last slide. So over 2 years, the catalogue has changed. So I think we're up to working on version 8 of our service catalogue today. So tier 0. So at the moment, there's 3 tiers of disk. We're putting a tier 0 in, so literally an SSD type service. Agencies will be able to purchase that. Going to tier 4, we're challenging the guys. We've got national libraries that are saying, I've got all this data, I've got 2 petabytes of data sitting on VHS in their basement, and this is like New Zealand's historical data. And so they're asking for a cold storage. They want to buy, National Library want to buy 1 gigabyte of storage at a cent a gig. Great. Talk to my technical guys saying, guys, I've got a demand, 2 petabytes of disk. Yeah, they only want to pay a cent a gig for it, but they can get it on Amazon so they can do it, so why can't we do it? And so that's the challenge for them. And these are the services that we want to deliver to government by expanding our service. Network as a service, so NAS as a service. So we'll deliver you storage straight to your network. So we've added that as well. Spark as a service. There's about 6 agencies around town that have invested heavily in Oracle technology, you know, in the Spark technology. So we brought that to the market. No one in New Zealand is delivering a Spark LDOM as a service. And those agencies now have a platform to migrate onto, with more to come. So as I said, the Portal 2.0 is going to be our stretch for all the government to private clouds. So whether it's going into Amazon, Azure, you name it, we're going to be able to stretch those networks into those clouds. And we're calling ourselves a public aggregation, a public facilitator of cloud. But ultimately, with those fiscal control panels and proactive controls, so that you haven't got the business going out with a credit card and swiping and buying some virtual servers on their corporate credit card. It can be controlled and ensured that that DFA is appropriately getting signed off. That's me. Thank you.